Hey everybody, this is Tactical Squirrel. I am intrigued by this new server coming out on Everquest. I am a avid fan of Everquest. I've played it since near when it started. Was my very first game I've ever played outside of Atari or PlayStation or something like that. But like MMO game, that was the first one I ever played. So I have spent nearly 21 years keeping track of it and having fun with it. And I saw this new server and there's a lot of talk going around. So I thought I would spend a little bit of time talking about it and doing a little research and speculating, I guess you could say, on what all is going to happen when it does launch. So many people were even a little bit doubting that there was even going to be one this year, but they recently, in the last week, they came out, I think like actually a few days ago, came out and announced May 26th, which I believe is a Wednesday. Yes, it is. This server, Mischief, will be launching. Now, kind of wondering if it's going to launch kind of like Eridoon was, where anybody in the outside of the European Union struggled to get on it, and then when we did get on it, it was a nightmare because it was limited to 2,000 people, and you had 10-minute zone times. You had to wait 3 hours to get on the game. So I'm hoping that with the new owners that they've got that all sorted out. I'm not holding on to that hope very much, but we're just going to put our best foot forward and hope that they do have it figured out. So let me go ahead and go over this a little bit, kind of give you my take on it all. I'll just kind of give you the basics of it. If you've never played this game, it's a super old game. It's a 22-year-old game, as they're on the 22-year anniversary here pretty soon, and doesn't take much of a computer to run it. I can tell you that. But it was the game of its time, and it ruled until WoW came out, to be honest. But it has managed to stay relevant in today's MMO genre for a lot of old schoolers, some new schoolers, by doing these TLP, which is time-locked progressions servers. So this one is one of probably, I think there's been about 10 or so since P99. I started playing them on Agnar, and I've played nearly everyone since, but not all of them. And I've played nearly everyone until POP, until Planes of Power came out. So, or one of them I actually played in Planes of Power. And I just got dragged away by other games that really piqued my interest. It's hard to keep up that raiding schedule for so long if you're into the raiding, and there's no reason to me to be on a TLP unless you're going back for the raiding experience. So, okay, so let's just kind of get into these rules that they have, what they say, what you need to know about, or what you need to know to expect on Mischief. For the rule set, Mangler type XP, that means that it's going to be not quite the original XP, slow XP, but it's not going to be like, I think it was Silos that had the super fast XP. Agents of Change enabled. Now, if you're not familiar with Agents of Change, that's a little NPC that they put in the game that you can go to as a raid leader and have your raid form up at it and start a raid zone that is specifically just for the people in your raid. So it saves you from having to fight against other guilds, so to speak, or raids for the boss mobs. which really helped to, you know, back in the day, you weren't in the best of the best guilds, you weren't getting any raid loot. And you were doing pickup raids for hopefully a chance that the raid leader would allow the right for people to get raid loot. Sometimes they would reserve it for themselves or their BFF or whatever. So pickup zones enabled. That's nice. That allows you to pick zones. So if you go in and that zone's too full, all the mobs in that zone will be dead and you will not be able to XP in it, let alone pick up any rare mobs. So pick zones are nice. You can have, like in the beginning stages, I know like Unrest and Gook and all those places got like 10 to 20 picks running. True box enabled. You know, some people kind of laugh at this, but it is what it is. True box means that you cannot have more than one character on a computer. As a ex-6 boxer myself, I can tell you that is a real thing. I've tried to. I mean, there's workarounds. There's software that you can grab and it'll, you know, trick the game into thinking that you have two different computers, but I never really got into those. Never really cared to. But True box means that you're supposed to have one character per computer. You can have as many computers as you want, basically, but you have to have a separate computer for each box. I know Eridoon tried to make it so that you couldn't do more than 2 boxes at a time. They were not. I think at beginning stages, everybody was hiding it well enough that everybody thought it was being successful, but it was pretty obvious within the first couple weeks that it was not. So that's what True box means. I've yet to see. Well, I've yet to play on a server since Daybreak sold the game to the new owners. So I'm interested to know how they're handling it and how they're going to handle it with this new progression server that's being released. Like I said earlier, I'm keeping my hopes up, but I'm not expecting much per se. Free trade enabled. Now this is interesting. I've heard a lot of opinions on how it's going to do. If it's a good thing or a bad thing. I have yet to experience a free trade server. From what I understand, Fair and Aviv or Vi was a free trade server. In other words, if you do a quest, your quest item would normally be a no trade item. Not always, but normally be a no trade item that the only thing you could do is wear it or sell it or put it in your bank. From now this, from what I understand, means that they'll be able to trade those items to other players. That could be a good thing for the market, the economy on that server. Now that can have a lot of speculation. Some people will say, well, it'll flood the market and the market will become cheap. And or it could create a larger market and more people would be out to not have to spend chrono, for instance. In a normal progression server, everybody's starting off by going and buying 10 chrono from the from Everquest store, and or from the Daybreak store back then, and going in game, and the first thing they'll do is jump into the comments and start spamming out selling chrono, and then they'll use that to pre-buy their items. A lot of blacksmiths make a lot of money in those stages, but that's what normally happens on a progression server. Majority, not all. A lot of people like to just truly get in there and get into the raw experience, and I've done both. Myself. I've on 2 progression servers. I went in, one I 6-boxed in, one I 2-boxed in, and I just went in there and just refused to buy anything, and made my way, got into a raid guild, got my gear that way. And it was a chore, but it was worth the experience. It was fun. And then the last one I did on Aerodune, I actually went in and bought the chrono, sold it, and bought my gear. I was 2-boxing there, and had a blast. I mean, that was just as much fun. It was a new experience. I mean, that's what we're looking for here. Most of us that come into these progression servers, we're not looking for the same old. I mean, at first we might have been, but most of us, after we've done it the same old a couple times or a few times, we're now ready to experience another side of it. Like I know myself, I wasn't a big raider in the original expansions, and I played all the way through Discord before I, jumped out of it. But I didn't really do it. I mean, there were a few months there. I think in Planes of Power, I did quite a bit of raiding, but not really. Besides that, I just kind of played the game to have fun. I was in college at the time, and I was enjoying it. Had a small guild that I was in. We had a lot of fun. When I come back to the progression servers, I mean, I came back to raid, to experience the side of it that I didn't experience when I first played it. So, everybody has their reasons, but let's move on. Random loot. This is the one that I wanted to talk about the most. So I'm going to come back to this one because I have a spreadsheet set I put together that I think is going to be interesting. I think help me kind of grasp what they mean by this random loot. But let's go on down here. Unlock cadence. So they made a couple good decisions. 1 month on Classic. Classic there's nothing to do in Classic. I mean, there's not. And Kunark as well. I wish they'd have made this 1 month as well. But Classic is I did it on Aerodune from the very beginning. And I'll be honest, by the time the third expansion came out, I was so burnt. I was done. I mean, Kunark has nothing either. I mean, all there is epics there. So most people have their epic done within the first couple weeks. The true, like the hardcore gamers, have it done in the first day. I mean, week, whatever. So, yeah, I think that's a smart idea to go 1 month here. I question this, but at least it's not 3 months like it was on Aerodune, and I think it was like that on Agnar. I think most progression servers will do 2 to 3 months per expansion. So, I mean, some of them did. Some of them did. Some had different rules to that, but and then 2 to 3 months for all releases past then except for Elden. Now that's smart because Elden's just, there's not much to it, so to spend a lot of time on that would be crazy as well. But yeah, when you get into Velis and Luckland and POP and all that stuff, you're gonna need 2 to 3 months to make sure you get your raid parties properly geared. Takes a little bit of time to get your raid parties up to where they can do the final bosses, or the that expansions into the road bosses. So yeah, definitely a good idea. And there's a lot of quests in there that people want to do that they're going to need some time to put together. Because they may not be the first person to win that or to buy that item during the raids. They might have to wait a few weeks to get it, and then they're going to want to do the quests, so on and so forth. So yeah, I think that's a great idea right here. Like I said, I do question this one, and there's probably a couple expansions in here that yeah, see, there's 2 months for no level increase, 3 months for a level increase. Because it's a good idea, actually. I mean, really, if you're a working man and you work a lot, you work over 40 hours a week, you're not going to be able to spend the time on there to level up properly. It's going to take some of them 2 months just to get leveled up. Your more hardcore raider or players, they're going to be leveled up in a couple days, if not the first day. I mean, let's be honest. So yeah, definitely good for the overall population of most servers. Well, it'll be interesting to see with all these rules how many people will migrate from other servers. Hopefully we don't get too many of the toxic ones, but you know, you always do. So, but let's talk about the random loot enabled. Let's go read through this. The Mischief server is a new experimental server that randomizes loot. Rare NPCs will drop loot from other rare or other NPCs of a similar level within the same expansion. Raids will drop loot from other raid NPCs of similar level within the same expansions. We may add other special case randomizations. Rare NPCs will have a greater chance of spawning, so they'll increase the spawn rate of rare NPCs. So what I did is I went ahead and put together a little spreadsheet where I went in and I searched out all that I could find. I mean, I'm sure there's some in here that are not on this list, of the rare mobs by level throughout levels 1 through 55. And I went in and highlighted a few. So under those rules, now I'm not saying this is it. I mean, I'm not saying there's going to be a 5-level range. I mean, this is just an example, as I put up here, my disclaimer. Example only, not saying this is a thing. But one could speculate that all of these mobs, since they're within a similar, let's go back and read. Where are we at? Oh, nope, we went that one right there. Within a similar level and on the same expansion. So all these that I have picked out here are from Classic. I didn't include the 2.0, the Kazakh Thule 2.0 mobs. That comes later. This, well, I mean, I assume that. I don't know. With this server, I know on like Aerodune, it came within the last 2 weeks. So people, you know, it came with the next expansion. Some of them, I don't know. I don't know how they'll handle it. I'm just going with a basic standard understanding. So technically, by what they're saying, this could be a thing. Not saying it is, but all these mobs could share the same loot table. All these mobs can share the same loot table. I highlighted these two because a lot of people are will go and kill them to get their magical weapon so that they can attack undead, because everyone wants to go into Gook and Unrest and XP. I mean, that's been the place to go for years. I wonder, now here's the thing. Since this is a thing, who says permafrost doesn't become one of the most farmed zones in the game? I mean, if they're all sharing the same loot, does it really matter if you're in Unrest? Does it really matter if you're in Lower Gook? I mean, that's a lot to think about. I mean, let's take, for instance, the Frenzied Knoll. Probably the most farmed, one of the most farmed. You got the Ancient Cycle. That's another one. Does that mean that you don't need to kill him for your J boots? Does that mean that any of these guys, or any of these guys right here, can drop the J boots? What about the Assassin? He drops the mask. And most servers, the mask is the mask that you can use on all characters is only available in original, and as soon as Kunark drops, the Assassin and Bard only mask come out. And if you didn't get it in original, you just don't get it. And it's a no drop item, so does that mean that item, when you get it, you can now sell later on down the road? That brings a lot of questions into my mind. But yeah, technically, I don't need to go camp the Frenzied Camp. I don't need to sit there for 6 hours waiting for it to open up, or longer. I can go and kill one of these other guys and get the exact same loot. I'd go to solo B. You know what I mean? I don't have to be in the frenzied camp to get that ever so coveted FBSS. What about the Archmangus? What about Princess? She drops a nice earring. Or is it a ring? I can't remember. What about the boots? Does that mean I can go into Finny's lair? Or what's the name of that zone? Ah. Where is that zone? That is let's look that up. My brain is drawing a blank. Most of you are probably Kedge Keep. There you go. Does that mean I can go into Kedge Keep and farm for the boots, the golden boots, or Gook? That's a lot to think about, isn't it? There's a lot of questions. There's a lot of things. So when you're seeking loot, what about Lockjaw? He drops some of the best early game loot a lot of people look for. Does that mean all of these mobs have a chance to drop his tunic? Or is it a tunic? Yeah, I think it is. Let's look. Lockjaw. Yeah, he drops the Lockjaw hide vest. Not an amazing piece of gear, but in the beginning stages of Classic, that's something everybody will use halfway through the levels. Right? I mean, I don't know. I'm very curious to see how this all plays out. I'm very curious, and I'm half tempted to jump on this server myself. I'm half tempted to do it. I'd love to hear what you guys think. Please drop a comment below and let me know. How do you think this is going to play out? Do you think, I mean, of course, I'm not saying that it's going to be a 5-point spread on the level share, on the loot share. I mean, it could be a 2-point or 2 level. Could be a 10 level share. What do you think? How do you think that's going to pan out? You think it's going to be bad? Let's go down to the raid bosses. I put these together as well. So does that mean Finny and Dread and Terror and Fright can drop the same things? Does that mean that Vox will drop the same thing that Dracolich drops and the Spire Lord? What about the CT and Inthruk and the Nobles? The Nobles are considered to be almost Konark level mobs. Does that mean they're going to be in their own classic? Oh, I needed to up that, but what is that? 64 through 70. Does that mean the Nobles are going to be in their own classification? Well, that won't help. I mean, you won't be able to get the, I mean, most people are fighting to get their quest pieces from the Nobles, and they never get it. They never get it. They fight like hell to raid the sky, the most boring raid in all the expansions that everybody hates to go on, but they go on it because they want that quest piece that's maybe, possibly will drop in the expansion. What do you think, Noir? My cat came up here to get in this conversation. So does that mean that since they are literally considered to be harder than any of the bosses in the game by many, most guilds will take down CT and Inthruk but never get the Nobles, or they might get the first Noble? Makes you really think, doesn't it? is that loot really, how's it going to spread out? What raid bosses will share the same loot? Right? A lot to think about there. I mean, if you don't have to go kill Vox and Nagy to get your book, your epic book. I mean, will epics play under the same rules? I would assume not. But for instance, the wizard epic drop from the golem in Fear. That's usually, those kind of drops are usually farmed on most, let's be honest, on most progression servers. Those kind of drops are usually farmed by the top guild on the server until all their wizards have it. And then once they do, they'll either do one of two things. They'll start selling it to every other wizard on the server for redonkulous amount of chrono. Or they'll try to hold it, but they'll actually lose any gusto to keep up with it. And the next highest level grade or guild on the server will come and take it over. And since they already have theirs, they don't care anymore. They're moving on to other things. They're moving on to other games, waiting for the next expansion to come out. And there you have it. There's the next raid guild doing the exact same thing to everyone else. So does that mean they're going to change the way they do that? Are they going to share those epic drops? That's a lot to think about. Do I think they're going to do that? No. No, I think they're going to keep epics the way they are. They would be smart to do that, to pick a variety of mobs that they can spread those epics out to. Maybe not the normal ones, the normal named and the normal raid bosses, but maybe, you know, a few that they can make eligible to drop it. Free it up for other people to get it. I mean, that could be a thing. That could be a cool thing. That could be a bad thing. I mean, that would increase the drop rate of it, and that means that a guild could literally go farm all of it. I don't know. But I'll tell you what, I am just a little bit excited to see how it does play out. So I would love to hear back from you guys. I'd love to know what your thoughts are, good or bad. I'd love to know what you think's going to happen when this server drops. And I'd be interested to know if you plan on playing on it. I'm still up in the air about it. I think I'd love to play a little bit more on some EverQuest, but only if it's going to be a good experience. Not if it's going to be another 3 months of griefing. Drop your comments below. Let me know what you think. And thank you guys for watching this. Hit that like button. Get some more notifications. Subscribe to my channel if you really enjoyed this. And hopefully, if I decide to play on it, we will give some more details as time comes along. And as I hear more, I will definitely come back and share my thoughts on it. Peace. Have a great day.